Firstly, thank you so much for joining. I have read
Yeah,
articles about you here and there, but it's the first time I'm speaking.
okay. Yeah, thank you. I'm ready to start whenever you want to.
So, can you tell me a little about your growing up years?
My growing up has been a bit different than other families because I grew up in a royal family, and not that now we have no powers as such, but still, even in spite of being a democratic republic, we still have a lot of roles and responsibilities, and we are the future custodians of the rich cultural heritage which has been inherited by us from our ancestors. So therefore, we have a lot of expectations from us. So our grooming is slightly different. We are raised by retainers, staff which has served us for several generations, and they train us in a manner that we are able to care of our rich cultural heritage. So, and there are a lot of protocols, lot of rules and regulations, and lot of restrictions. So I kind of lived in a very protected and surrounded by servants, and in which I would like they're not everything ours. There is no love and affection between parents, which not many people know. The children are not parents, but they are raised by a nanny or a governess. So I was raised by a governess, uh, and she raised my mother as well. And till quite late at age, I didn't know who was my mother. I used to think, I mean, it's that kind of situation we are living. So we don't develop at other children in other families do. So it remains like a royal secret, but I have been a rebel, so I speak the truth, and I don't know about this thing in public.
What was the journey of discovering your sexuality like?
So see, I'm giving you a background about my growing up and upbringing. So there was communication with me and exposure to the outside world. Everything was much protected that we weren't allowed to do so many things, and I mean that freedom was not there. And so I grew up to be a very shy, introvert, lonely child. Not a friend. Even making friends was a problem because with people of our status. So I would always get scared, and then you won't be allowed. Then there's no use. So and like when I was in school, I studied in a co-educated school, and there were boys and girls, and I knew I was different because I was attracted towards boys. I wasn't attracted towards girls, and another thing which was different was I was the only boy in the class which didn't like that the boys should tease the girls. And I would always try to tell the boys, why do you pull their ponytails, or why do you do this to them? And as a result, I kind of started protecting the girls, and I ended up having more girlfriends in school than boyfriends. But of course, no sexual attraction towards them. They were just girls. I mean, they were just friends for me. They were girls, and the girls extremely liked me a lot in school. But then, again, as a child, we were always told, when if I want to meet my girlfriend, I wasn't allowed, and they would always say that no, you cannot meet. She's a girl. The girl's parents needs to be at home. Then you can meet. But if I have to meet a boy, then the boy is allowed in my about that boy coming into my bedroom. But we are always forbidden to meet the opposite sex. And with the same sex, our parents have no problems. So that's something very interesting thing which I grew up, that same sex is allowed, but opposite sex is not allowed. But I didn't have a name to my what I was behaving and what I was doing. I had no clue about my sexuality, because as I said, nobody to talk to, nobody to communicate. My nanny was illiterate. She anything. So there was no chance I could kind of, get information about my behavior. And I used to sometimes think maybe this is a passing phase, and as I grow older, things will change. And I was not even aware that what I'm doing is am I only am I the only one doing this? Are there several others like me? I had absolutely no clue about it.
While there are some privileges that come with being a royal, it is also heavily bound in tradition. So, was there some resistance you particularly faced while coming out for your identity as a royal?
Yeah, definitely there was a lot of resistance because, see, first of all, my coming out was itself a historical event, I would say. I actually created history by becoming the first member of a royal family to come out openly as gay in the world. Nobody forget about India, but even in the world, nobody has done this. So it was because, see, now there's a very strong misconception which lies in most of us, is that we always believe that people from upper class cannot always connect the to being sexuality. So when I came out, it was a shock to so many people because they could never have imagined that how a person from a royal family can ever be gay also. Because the cultural upbringing and everything is so strong and so pure, so much so rigid that so that itself shocked a lot of people. And definitely, people didn't like it because when I gave the interview, I mentioned that I may be the first member of a royal family to come out, but not the only one, which means I knew gays and lesbians in other royal families. So imagine how much people were agitated because they didn't want this royal secret to be out. And I mean, I had no objective of outing anyone from the royal family or anyone I knew, but I knew, and my parents also knew. They used to talk about gay and lesbian, and these words were not not unknown to me. But the only thing, I didn't know the meaning of gay, or I didn't know the meaning of lesbian. But my parents also knew that there are gays and lesbians in the royal families. So I mean, it was taken up very negatively. My coming out, my effigies were burnt in the. There were protests happening. My parents disowned me. They disinherited me, and everyone was kind of against me. I started receiving death threats also. People were wanting to kill me because people are scared of the truth. People are not used to listening to truth. So anyone who speaks the truth, they like to silence them. They like to quieten them. They don't like to listen to truth. But I said, I'm going to speak the truth because I am greatly inspired by none other than Mahatma Gandhi. And if Gandhiji would have used this and fought the war of independence and got us free from Britishers, then I said, why can't I be honest to myself and honest to others and fight for my right?
Can you tell us a little about Laksh?
Yeah, so before I start talking about Lakshya, let me give you a little bit of history of the LGBT movement in India. So Ashok Rao Kavi happens to be gay activist, the first person in India to have come out as gay, uh, as early as 1980s or even before that. And we all know that HIV/AIDS came into India in 1980s, and it was in the 1990s that the government started seriously thinking about ways and means of controlling this epidemic in our country. And they realized that they need to get in touch with vulnerable populations such as ours, the homosexual population, the transgender, the sex workers, because we are the high risk population for HIV infection. So that's how they got in touch with Ashok, and his organization, Humsafar Trust, was the first organization in India to have got support from the government for HIV control. So since I was getting mentored by Ashok, he used to keep telling me that why don't you start your own organization in the state of, because Humsafar is taking care of Mumbai and nearby places. So Gujarat government also needs to partner with organizations, similar organizations. So that's how we thought about starting Lakshya in Gujarat. And it's the first organization working on the LGBT empowerment issues in the state of Gujarat, and we received government funding. And we have been working in specifically 3 cities: Vadodara, Surat, Rajkot, but we also work with other cities, Ahmedabad and many other cities as well. Of course, the primary aim when we started was HIV prevention and awareness amongst the homosexual and transgender population. But now we have gone ahead, we are doing many other things. We work on mental health issues of the community, we work on the aging issues. We are also the first organization to start working on the wives of gay men, because we have to understand that most of gay population, gay men in India, are married to women. So imagine the wives don't even know their husbands are gay, and what kind of issues are there between the wives and coming to know about the husband's sexuality and all those things. So we worked on that. We have an exclusive project for the trans community. In 2014, the Supreme Court pronounced first time in the history of India, transgenders' rights have been recognized. After transgender bill was passed and in the parliament, so we are focused getting the social entitlements like Aadhaar card, ration card, opening their bank accounts of the trans community, and also we are trying to see that how we can secure their health and their employment, education, and we are also taking care of HIV for transgender community, care and support, and giving them their ART treatment. One of the dream projects which I'm in is developing a LGBT community campus, a kind of a refuge where I could rescue the community who would be thrown out from homes and they would be rendered homeless. And so I try to give them a safe and secure environment where they can stay in my ashram and kind of a campus, and where I would also build their skills and build their capacities so that they can be self-employed and they could be given employment opportunities, so that when they are empowered, they can go back and face the homophobic world with a lot of confidence. So that's what I'm trying to do. We have a dedicated staff of almost 300 people working for part-time, full-time. Most of them are gay or transgender. And we have so far reached out to a huge population, more than 25,000 people we have reached out to just in the state of Gujarat. And of course, we have won several awards, international awards. And of course, government is also proud of us for the work we are doing for them.
How do you react to the arguments presented in the Supreme Court by the government lawyer against homosexual marriage?
Against the whom? Against, you're talking about the Supreme Court judgment?
No, the arguments presented in court by the government side against homosexual marriage.
Oh, against homosexual marriage. Yeah, I think this case is still in a very initial stage. It's too early to make any comments as such. But yeah, definitely the judicial system is in our favor. In fact, the Delhi High Court itself then told the community that please file as many petitions as possible. For gay couples, lesbian couples should fight, because even though there's no law which says that gay couples cannot get married. There is no law which even talks about same-sex couples in India. Even though we know that in the olden days, the same-sex couples have been existing, and because I know so many couples in India who have socially got married, and the priests have got them married. The priest has cooperated and has come and got their marriage. Their marriages have happened in India. Several marriages have happened in India, but it is only that these marriages are not recognized by the court of law, and therefore it was necessary to file to draw the attention of the government that we also have the right to love somebody. We have right to live with someone legally and like as a couple, as a heterosexual couple. Now, see, government approach has been not that much favorable, because ultimately, see, we have to also understand that government is on the defendant side. They will definitely defend themselves, but at the same time, yeah, the even in the previous case where we were fighting about legalizing, or rather decriminalizing homosexual act, at that time also government was party, and they had no evidence to prove that homosexuality is not criminal. They had absolutely no evidence about it, because our constitution is so strong, our Indian constitution is so strong, that it is giving us rights to all citizens equally. So even in this marriage case, I'm sure, even though government this arguments don't hold much of logic, and don't have much of reasoning in them because of lack of evidence. So we are definite. It is definite that we are going to win sooner or later, but it will take some time. I mean, it took us almost 2 decades to amend the law, this section 377. So, but I'm sure sooner or later we will be able to. I mean, you might have heard the recent Madras High Court judgment, which has come in our favor. The Madras High Court has felt, and why that has happened, because of strong activism in Tamil Nadu. And I know some of the leaders from the LGBT community, especially the trans community. Some of them they're very good friends of mine, and I know they have done so much of activism. They've done so much of advocacy, education within the judicial system. To get this to happen. So similarly, for the Delhi High Court also, we have to plan out these kind of strategies, where we need to educate the people and to tell them why we need these rights.
What role can allies play in the movement?
See, according to me, an ally is a very important person, because it is an ally who's not from the community. For example, you are there today. Shriya, right? Shriya Das Gupta. Yeah, you are an ally for us. Why have I decided to come on this platform is because I want an allyship from you. I want you to be an ally for us. I want you to inspire other people. But it's important that an ally gets himself or herself educated on our issues. Then he or she will be able to educate others and spread the word. Because it is the allies who will help us in mainstreaming our issues in the society. Because if the community, I keep rapping, it's not going to. Yeah, it will definitely make difference, but it won't make that much of a difference if you tell people about us and say that, hey, look, I met somebody who's gay, and he's absolutely normal and natural like any one of us. There's nothing wrong with him. Why don't you accept him? Why are you subjecting him to discrimination, and why do you have hatred towards him? And they are all nice people, and we are so colorful. I mean, look at me. I mean, I'm wearing all types of colors. We are colorful. We are creative. We are good people. There's no reason that we should be hated for what. Why do people hate us? So allies can play a very important role and change people's mindsets. That's what we need.
So, this particular lockdown has resulted in a lot of people being forced back into their homes, which might not be safe spaces for the queer community. So I also heard in an interview that you have spoken to them and counseled them. So what was that experience like? And what is the solution to this problem?
Yeah, just today's Times of India only has reported my interview. I don't, maybe you must have read that, because during the pandemic, a lot of us were forced to go back home because some of us had lost jobs. Some of them had no safety outside. So a lot of us decided to go back home. But then once we go back home, then we have to listen to our parents' drama. But Indian parents are full of drama, so they will take this opportunity. Oh, you come back home now. Let's think about your marriage and things like that. Because so long as we are outside, then the marriage pressure is not that much. So a lot of us were pressurized for marriage, and a lot of us also had to succumb to marriage pressure because they had no choice. They were living with the parents and then depending on them for food and shelter, and also then parents will take advantage of the situation and they'll emotionally blackmail us. So there have been so many cases were coming to me last year, even this year. So many of my friends they wanted to run away from home and leave the home. They said, we don't mind getting infected by COVID, but we don't want to get married with a girl. So that, I mean, imagine, you're so desperate, you don't know what to do because parents were hellbound, torturing them, tormenting them, forcing them that, no, nothing doing. And so many of them came out to their parents, and then still the parent pressure was. They said, no, it's fine. If you get married to a girl, you'll become normal, So that's the kind of things are happening. Then, fortunately for us, we have a Rainbow Parents Association in India, which is called Swikar. It's a registered organization comprising of several parents, mothers and fathers and grandparents and aunts, uncles, who have accepted their children. And they had also filed a petition in the Supreme Court when the Section 377 was being heard. So I used to ask them, I said, look, I can, if you are interested, I can talk to this Swikar, and somebody from their, the member from their organization can help your parents to understand. So some of them had agreed, and I did help out. Like I remember one case came to me from UK. There was an Indian boy settled in UK, and his mother was in, she is, I think, from a Tamil Nadu, from South India. I don't know exactly which part, but so I got a Tamil mom. I got a South Indian mom, because Indian culture plays an important role in India. So I said, instead of getting a Bengali mother or the Gujarati mother, let me get a mother from South India, to explain to her. And she talked to her. I mean, of course, in the beginning, there was a lot of drama between them also, but ultimately, she kind of accepted her son. And today, that boy has actually got married with another guy in UK. Just last month, they got married, And they invited me, but of course, I couldn't go because there was a lockdown here. But I was part of that virtual wedding. So this is how we can change, the parents will not understand in the beginning, but like, as I said, the mother talking to mother will definitely, because mother can talk from her point of view and tell that how she has accepted her son. And that was one of the biggest challenges which parents face is society. A lot of parents tell me, in fact, parents also have reached out to me, and told me that we come to know about our son, but now what does society tell us? Then what will society say? What are you doing? How can you not get your son married or daughter married? What kind of a mother you are? So they get pressure from society. So that's why these mothers who have accepted their children is a better bet, because they can explain to them all this situation, that how they can tackle the society and how they can still manage to accept their children.
So this would be my last question. What is your message for young people who are in a dilemma about coming out?
You mean the young LGBT
Yes.
population? Yeah. Okay. You have to, be comfortable with your sexuality. One should not have the guilt feeling in your mind that you have done something wrong. Whatever you are, it's absolutely natural and normal. It's natural and normal, being how heterosexuals are natural and normal. Similarly, being gay, lesbian, trans, queer is also natural and normal. You're born with it. You don't acquire it afterwards. And so we don't have to have the guilt feeling. We should be proud of our sexuality. That is one of the important things. We should remove all that guilt feelings, and we need to accept ourselves. Many times we don't like to accept ourselves because we think that, if we accept, then, what if somebody finds out, and then what will happen, and all that kind of things happen. We have to accept ourselves and try and give an identity. Are you gay? Are you lesbian? Are you trans? Are you queer? Are you whatever you are? Are you bisexual? You need to give an identity and accept yourself. If you still want to come out to your parents and all, then you have to remember one thing, that as I was giving example, parents will not easily understand. You have to be prepared for all the consequences which can happen of. And I was telling, especially the Indian mothers, they specialize in emotional blackmail. They know that we are mentally attached to them, and you cannot live without mother's food. You can eat any other food, but you ultimately want to come home and eat mom's home cooked food. That is a part of our Indian culture. So they know that, mothers know that, and especially they take advantage of that, and then they blackmail the children. And then I know so many of them, they are forced to get married because the mother says, I'll kill myself, if you don't get. Then what will that guy do? He has to agree to because he can't afford to lose the mother. Though most mothers, they say they don't commit suicide. that also happens. But then, you cannot take a chance. Mothers are mothers. They can do anything to force their son. So, but you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared to be homeless. You have to be prepared to be detached from your family. So therefore, you need a very strong social support system. You have friends. You should have allies. You should have people who will in the times of coming out, they will support you. They will give you shelter. And a very important thing is we need to be financially independent. Because in India, we know most of us live in joint family system. We depend on parents for food, for shelter, for everything. And if we tell them, then they are going to throw you out from home. And we are not used to living homeless, and we are not used to live without mother's food and all those kind of things. And then we get mental health issues, depression. So many of us think of committing suicide. So if you are financially on your own, then they will not be able to do much harm. I mean, see my case. I was in the same situation. I was thrown out from home. I was thrown out from my ancestral property, everything. Yet I managed to survive, because I had a social support system and I was financially on my own. They couldn't do anything to force me to do. Because it's ultimately our life. We need to live the life the way we want. We are not harming. On the contrary, we are we are saving the life of a poor girl by getting married to her. If you are gay, lesbian, you are saving the life of a boy. Because there's no sexual attraction. How are you going to get married and do what with that person? Why don't we get the independence to decide our own what we want to do with our life, and why do parents always need to force their ideas on us? Why can't we have the freedom to decide our own partners? So that parents should realize, and I'm sure, I mean, now tomorrow you, Shreya, right? Shreya Das, you will become a mother eventually. And if your son comes to tell you and tells you, Mom, I'm gay, I'm sure you will be able to handle your son in a much better manner than your mom would have handled you. Because now you are aware of certain things. You have talked to me, you met me, I mean, virtually, and you have known about our issues. So if your son turns out to be gay, you will be a much better mother to him, and you will accept him, you will treat him like your child, and you will not force your ideas on him the way this generation is doing. So therefore, like I said, we need allies so that we can change the world. We can make this place a better place to live, and I'm very hopeful that that's going to happen.